Recording in progress.
Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Pahimam. Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava. Rama, Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna, Keshava, Krishna, Keshava. Krishna, Keshava, Pahimam. So, we're reading from chapter number 33, which is description of the Rasa dance from Krishna book. And the paragraph starting from is, most of the gopis in their previous lives were great sages. And just to give a bit of background from the previous week, what can you all remember from what we read? We can start by saying there was a discussion between Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, where Parikshit Maharaj asked a question about whether Krishna's performing the rasa dance was the right thing to do because God comes to establish religion. So how is Krishna's rasa dance connected with establishing religion? Is it not irreligious? Is it not abominable? Is it not? Is Krishna not a very lusty person? Is Krishna not? Is he impious? So these are all the different words. He said, "Are you a brahmachari, Sukadev Goswami?" Who are discussing these things, like a rasa dance. And then Sukadev Goswami gave some responses to those comments, those harsh comments. Of course, Maharaj Parikshit, he was speaking on behalf of the wider audience who were assembled there at the river Ganges, listening to the Bhagavad Gita. There was a whole host of different people like yogis and sages and karmis and gyanis and other types of people. So does anyone remember what we read last week?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Something that just came to my mind was that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he punished, or he, because he was a magistrate, he put, I don't know, punished or did something, punished the person who was trying to imitate that he was God.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the words which Maharaj Parikshit used was that that the rasa dance is abominable. Yeah, Jugupsitam. And then the example, sorry, it wasn't that one, was it? No, that wasn't the one. Yeah, so he's saying that you can't imitate Krishna. Yeah? So there was a guy who tried to do that, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, effectively he finished him off, by sitting down and reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. All his power and his life strength went away. And Srila Prabhupada says it's similar to if someone copies Lord Shiva by smoking ganja and drinking poison, they would also die. So if you try and copy Krishna's rasa dance, that's what would happen. Yeah, well remembered. Anyone else remember some of the other points? It's worth backtracking because none of us remember it. It's important to remember because we are reading about the rasa dance, so it's important to understand how it's not ordinary activity.
And also because Krishna was a very young age, that it's not lust that he's experiencing, because we were talking about it's his energy. He doesn't need enjoyment from anyone else. It was like enjoying yourself like a mirror image kind of thing. Was one of the things it said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So Krishna is not like a young boy who's dancing with other people's wives. Krishna is actually expanding his own pleasure energy. Everything comes from him anyway, ultimately. So these gopis are ultimately also his energy, but they're just playing these roles in this lila. In this lila also means like a drama almost. So it's like a play, and it's described that he's like playing like a boy, a child looking in front of a mirror and playing with his reflection. Yeah. Anything else? Also that he came from a very good family. He came from the Yadu family. So generally speaking, someone who comes from a good family, they know the correct behavior, the correct way to deal with other people. Yeah. Initially Krishna told the gopis to go back home and they didn't. So he fulfilled their desires. Yeah. Then the Maharaj Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami that how is this appropriate for a brahmachari to discuss, and Sukadeva Goswami said that, well, just like fire can burn anything up, and just like the sun can absorb impure things like urine and stool and purify the place, disinfect and sterilize it. Similarly, listening to Krishna's Ras Leela can purify lust in our hearts. So this is a very important point. That hearing Krishna's Ras Leela pastimes from the proper authorities is actually going to purify us from lust. Whereas if you hear about lusty activities in, like movies or books, ordinary books, then it just increases lust. So Krishna's Ras Leela has the opposite effect. It purifies us from lust. This was one of the points made as well. So there were a few others made as well. So let's continue with our reading for this week. The Jayaprakash Prabhu will read first.
Most of the gopis in their previous lives were great sages, expert in the study of the Vedas. And when Lord Krishna appeared as Lord Ramchandra, they wanted to enjoy with him. Lord Ramchandra gave them the benediction that their desires would be fulfilled when he would appear as Krishna. Therefore, the desire of the gopis to enjoy the appearance of Lord Krishna was long cherished. So they approached the goddess Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband. There are many other circumstances which also testify to the supreme authority of Krishna and show that he is not bound by the rules and regulation of the material world. In special cases, he acts as he likes to favor his devotees. This is possible only for him because he is the supreme controller. People in general should follow the instruction of Lord Krishna as given in Bhagavad Gita, and should not even imagine imitating Lord Krishna in the rasa dance.
Can you also read the next one as well, please, Prabhu?
Yeah, sure. Krishna's lifting of Govardhan Hill and his killing of great demons like Putna are obviously extraordinary activities. Similarly, the rasa dance is also uncommon activity and cannot be imitated by any ordinary man. An ordinary person engaged in this occupational duty like Arjuna should execute his duty for the satisfaction of Krishna. This is within his power. Arjuna was a fighter and Krishna wanted him to fight for his satisfaction. Arjuna agreed, although at first he was not willing to fight. Duties are required for ordinary persons. They should not jump up and try to imitate Krishna and indulge in Rasa Leela and thus bring about their ruin. One should know with certainty that Krishna has no personal interest in whatever he did for the benediction of the gopis, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Namam karmani limpanti. Krishna never enjoys or suffers the results of his activities. Therefore, it is not possible for him to act irreligiously. He is transcendental to all religious duties and principles. He is untouched by the modes of material nature. He is the supreme controller of all living beings, entities, whether in human society, in demigod society, in the heavenly planets, or in the lower forms of life. And he is also the supreme controller of material nature. Therefore, he has nothing to do with religious or irreligious principles.
Thank you, Prabhu. So this paragraph begins with, again repeating a point we read earlier, that the gopis, who were they in their previous lives?
They were great sages who had good knowledge of the Vedas.
Yeah. And there's another group which is mentioned as well. So one group is called the Shrutacharis, yeah, those who worship the Vedas, basically. And then there's another group which is called the Rishicharis. So these are like the groups of people who in their next life were given the benediction or the blessing to become gopis. And what happens is when they're born as gopis, because of all their spiritual activity in the previous life, they get the blessing to be born as gopis. When they're born as gopis, they're born in one of the planets where Krishna's, one of the earth planets, in one of the universes, because there's so many universes where Krishna performs his pastimes. They're born in one of the universes where Krishna's going to perform his pastimes next. Yeah. So just like the sun, it appears in the sky, it's noontime in different places in the world at different times of day, right? Krishna's pastime similarly happening in different universes at different times. So Krishna is always performing his pastimes. He's always appearing again and again and again and again in different universes, just to show people in those universes his transcendental pastimes. And so we, like the conditioned souls, when we become purified, can take birth in the Vrindavan, in the material world, Brajabhumi, where Krishna is going to perform the pastimes. That's what happened to these two groups of sages. So one is known as the Shrutacharis, the worshippers of the Vedas, and one is known as the Rishicharis, who are actually in the pastimes of Lord Ramchandra. Lord Ramchandra personally blessed them to become gopis. Yeah. And they basically then, when they're born as gopis, these two groups, they get the association of the eternal associates of Krishna, yeah, the Nitya Siddhas, the gopis who are always with Krishna. Yeah. And then by developing that same kind of service attitude that they have, the same kind of pure desires that they have, they can also join Krishna in the Ras dance. Yeah. So this is explained to be important because the basic fault of those who are not devotees of Krishna the basic fault is that they don't think Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the basic fault. They think Krishna is an ordinary boy. Yeah. So that fault, that misunderstanding, it leads to so many other misunderstandings. Yeah. So one of the misunderstandings is that they think that Krishna's Rasa Leela is like an ordinary thing that anyone can do. They think, well, if Krishna did it, then we can do it. But Krishna did many things which we can't imitate. So what other things were mentioned here? Which other activities does Krishna perform that we cannot imitate?
Lifting of the Govardhan hill. Sorry, Mataji.
That's right, lifting the Govardhan hill.
Killing of great demons like Putna.
Yeah.
Which are all like extraordinary activities.
Yeah.
And Rasa dance again is uncommon activity, so it cannot be imitated either.
That's right. So these are activities which ordinary people cannot copy. Instead, Prabhupada gives an alternative for people in general. What should they do? How can they approach Krishna? So instead of hearing about Krishna's uncommon activities and criticizing those, then better to follow Krishna's instructions. Yes?
Sorry, that's what I was going to say. Serve Krishna for his satisfaction, Krishna's satisfaction.
Right, but if they don't believe Krishna is God, then they wouldn't serve Krishna.
Oh,
So what would
sorry.
people in general do? How would they hear about Krishna?
Is that they can either read the pastime of Krishna?
Yeah, they can read the pastimes of Krishna. There's a specific thing which Srila Prabhupada says here. I'll just read it out. People in general should follow the instructions of Lord Krishna as given in the Bhagavad Gita, and should not even imagine imitating Lord Krishna in the Ras dance. So for ordinary people who don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord, they can begin by Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? So Bhagavad Gita is the place to begin. And then once one has a grasp of Bhagavad Gita, then we can go on to learning Krishna's pastimes. And as Smita Mataji said, then we feel inspired to serve Krishna. So, and at any stage, actually, one can serve Krishna. But when one has established in their heart that Krishna is the Lord, he's my Lord, I want to serve him, when that's established in the heart, then that service becomes devotional. Okay. Anything else from these paragraphs, these two paragraphs, which we could learn from? Now, one more thing is that people even think Bhagavad Gita is ordinary. Then what to do? Even reading Bhagavad Gita, people think that this is just an ordinary book written spoken by an ordinary guy, two guys just having a conversation on the battlefield. Right? But if it was such an ordinary book, why then would people be studying these conversations for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years? Yeah, 5,500 years ago, there once was a little chat on a battlefield between two guys, and we're still studying it now. No, this is Krishna instructing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, instructing one of his most dear devotees. Now that is something special. But still, people try to comment in their own ways on Bhagavad Gita. They try make their own commentaries, try and make their own editions of Bhagavad Gita, right? For political or for social or for, you know, cultural appropriation. But that's not the purpose. Yeah? Purpose is here. Namam karmani limpatanti. Yeah? That we should learn that Krishna never enjoys or suffers the results of his activity. This is what Bhagavad Gita is for. It's to teach us that Krishna is a completely transcendental person. He can do whatever he likes. And then we become interested. What does Krishna like? Well, he likes the rasa dance. So that's his prerogative. So actually, he likes to benedict his devotees. He actually likes to fulfill the wishes of his devotees. And if his devotees want to dance with him, then he'll dance with them. Yeah. Okay. Shamrani Mataji, would you like to read next?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Sukadev Goswami further concludes that the great sages and devotees who are washed clean of all conditional life can move freely even within the contamination of material nature by keeping Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within their hearts. In this way, they also do not become subject to the laws of pleasure and pain in the modes of material nature. How, then, it is possible for Krishna, who appears in his own eternal potency, to be subjected to the laws of karma? In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord clearly says that whatever he appears, he does not so by his eternal potency. He is not forced to accept a body by the laws of karma, like an ordinary living entity. Every other living entity is forced to accept a certain type of body by his previous actions. But when Krishna appears, he always appears in a body that is not forced upon him by the action of his past deeds. His body is a vehicle for his transcendental pleasure, which is enacted by his eternal potency. He has no obligation to the laws of karma. The Mayavadi monist must accept a certain type of body. Being forced by the laws of nature, therefore, his claim to be being one with Krishna or God is only theoretical. Such a person who claims to be equal with Krishna and indulge in Ras Leela creates a dangerous situation for the people in general. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was already present as Supersoul within the bodies of the gopis and their husbands. He is the guide of all living entities, as is confirmed in the Katha Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. The Supersoul directs the individual soul to act, and the Supersoul is the actor and witness of all action.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Okay, so first we discussed how Krishna is beyond religion and irreligion. Yeah, he's not touched by religion and irreligion. Actually, he doesn't. What he's doing isn't a religious activity, performing rasa dance, and it's not irreligious either. He's performing spiritual activity because he's relating with those who are got spiritual bodies. Yeah. Now Sukadeva Goswami is explaining further. So is Krishna affected by karma or not? That's what's being answered here. How would we answer that question if Krishna is being affected by karma? Shashimata shaking her head. No, of course not. Okay. How do we know that, Shashimataji? How do we know that Krishna is not affected by karma?
I'm probably a bit out of practice with all of this, but is it because he's always acting neutrally, isn't he? In a neutral way. It's probably not the right terminology, but so he's not actually accruing any karma in anything that he does?
Yeah, that's right. He's neutral to good and bad. Yeah. He's above good and bad. Actually, yeah. So what's the result of good karma and what's the result of bad karma at the end of one's life? You got more good karma than bad karma. What happens to you? If you got more bad karma than good karma, what happens to you?
Pleasure and pain, Prabhu.
Okay. So at the end of life, then what happens next?
So you get a body according to your karma.
You get body according to your karma. That's right. So I think it's in chapter 8 where Krishna discusses this. He says that Krishna gives a really interesting definition of karma. He just says that karma is basically what gives you another body. Yeah. Because you know, like we have a very simple understanding of karma. When we speak to like people, colleagues or family members, karma just means you get the reaction of what you've done, right? Good karma equals good karma, bad karma equals bad karma, like that. Good work equals good karma, bad work equals bad karma. But the way Krishna describes it is that karma is what makes your next body. Yeah. So then does Krishna performing a ras dance give him another kind of body in his next life? Does that give Krishna some good karma or bad karma?
He's
If
not
he
bound
performs.
by the karmic reactions.
That's right, yeah.
By the material energy. He's the control of material energy, not being controlled by the three modes of nature or karma.
Yeah. So this is important because some people believe, even if Krishna is God, okay, even if we accept Bhagavad Gita, even if we believe Krishna is God, still God has to take birth in this material world. So this is also an incorrect understanding that God has to be born in this world. Yeah. Just like we have to be born, God has to be born too. Why not? We have to be born. Why not God? And that's what you see. Krishna is born to Devaki, Vasudeva, and they're afraid they have to move Krishna over to Vrindavan. Yeah, they have to move him to Gokul and live with Nanda and Yashoda. So people think that Krishna is born because, although he's God, still, he's born because he's got good karma and he became God. Right? And then he performs his Ras Leela, and he's going to get some good karma, some bad karma. Even though he's God, still. This is also not a proper understanding. Because it says here, an important point, if we take this principle from Bhagavad Gita, that karma results in your next body, but Krishna's body, Prabhupada says here, every other living, so here, sorry, he is not forced to accept a body by the laws of karma like an ordinary living entity. Every other living entity is forced to accept a certain type of body by his previous actions. But when Krishna appears, he always appears in a body that is not forced upon him by the action of his past deeds. His body is a vehicle for his transcendental pleasure pastimes, which are enacted by his internal potency. Yeah. So he has no obligation to the laws of karma. So this is how we can explain that Krishna, even though he's God, he doesn't, it's not that God, just to have a body, God has to take on a material body. Krishna's body isn't material either. Some people think that even God has to have a material body. But Krishna's body itself is also spiritual. That's why we say Krishna's body is a bluish hue. We never hear like Krishna's skin is bluish, right? Like my skin is brown, or my skin is white, or my skin is black, or, you know? We never hear that Krishna's skin is blue. Krishna's body is blue because he doesn't have like skin like the way we have skin. And then beyond that skin, then there's blood and there's flesh and there's bone. He doesn't have a material body. He has a spiritual body, a fulgent blue spiritual body. Yeah. So no one can imitate Krishna. They can try to imitate his activities, but even if they think I can imitate his activities, I can become God. But you can't get a spiritual body like that. Even if you think you're Krishna, if we just took a slit at your arm a little bit, we'll see the blood coming up. Whereas Krishna's body, you know, so many demons tried to attack him, but he was unaffected. He has a spiritual body. So this is the next point which Shukadeva Goswami discusses, the final point, rather. Is there any comments or questions on this?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
I,
Snitamati.
I have two one's a question and one is maybe what I think could be right or wrong.
Mhm.
So the first thing is that the last sentence in this paragraph is a bit confusing. The super soul is Bharat, is the, and the individual soul is the Atma, isn't it? And
Yeah.
the super soul is the Paratma. I can't say the word, sorry.
Yeah. Param Atma. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So is it like we're puppets in Krishna's hands? And are we puppets in Krishna's hands? And we do whatever, if we sort of surrender, well, it's two, I'm going in two different tangents. This last one, it's saying the individual soul to act, and the super soul is the actor.
The super soul directs the individual soul to act. And the super soul is the actor and the witness of all action.
I understand the witness of all action because the soul forgets what they've done in all their lives or in their bodies, whatever body they've had or whichever world they've been in.
Yeah.
But I don't understand the super soul is the actor.
I'm just reading above a little bit to see how Prabhupada comes to this point. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was already present as the super soul within the bodies of the gopis and their husbands. He is the guide of all living entities. So yeah, the basic point is that, like we said before, that people think of Krishna to be an ordinary person. Yeah, this is the basic fault of the non-devotees. So Prabhupada is giving a quote here from Katha Upanishad, Nitya Nityanam Chaitanya Chaitananam. What it means is that there is one eternal person whom all other eternal persons follow. That's what that statement means. Yeah, that there's one Nitya and there's many other Nityas. Yeah, and whatever his, and they basically, because he is conscious, they are all conscious. Yeah. So because Krishna is conscious, that's why we're all alive. If there was no God, then there wouldn't be any of us. Yeah. You know, we can't exist actually without Krishna existing. That's the point. So that's why then Prabhupada says the super soul directs the individual soul to act. Because if Krishna doesn't create an atmosphere which we can live in, then how will we act? But the atmosphere which we live in is the material world. And Krishna accompanies us in the heart in the material world so that we can perform activities which we like. And so that we can do that, actually, Krishna is the one who's making our body function. He's making the world around us function. We, the soul, actually are not doing that. So we the soul have some desire. The Atma has a desire to, like I have the desire to remove my glasses, yeah, and I have the desire to put them back on. But I'm so insignificant. The soul is so insignificant. Where does the soul even get the power to, remove the glasses and put them back on? Because the soul is so tiny, so minute. But Krishna, this is all of his energy. He's able to do that, even just a small thing like that. If Krishna wanted to take away that power, he can do that too. Just like I was telling some of you last week, I injured my back. So I was lying in bed the whole day. I couldn't move. So Krishna took away that power, right? For me to move. So that's what it means when it says that the super soul directs the individual soul to act. And the super soul is to act and witness all action. So Krishna is watching all of this and he's empowering all of our desires. He's empowering all the actions that we can fulfill our desires. Is that okay? I'm not sure if I explained that.
Yes,
well enough.
thank you very much. Yes, you have.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I was listening to a class, they're saying that actually the super soul hears and then we hear. The super soul sees and then we see, like you said, that everything goes through the super soul.
Yes.
Only when he sees, we see. When he hears, we hear. So it's like complex as that. That everything, only when he does, then we can do. It's passed on to us.
Yeah, exactly. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second canto, that's where that's explained. Whenever the super soul when the super soul desired to hear, then sound became manifest. This is how the universe was created. The second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is about creation. So everything was created just because Krishna desired it. So Krishna, the super soul, wanted to hear, Paramatma wanted to hear, then sound was created. The super soul, Paramatma, wanted to taste, then taste was created. What's required to create taste? Taste comes from water or like liquid substances. That's what gives taste. Yeah. Then the super soul desired to smell. So earth holds all fragrances. So the earth was created, and then the different fragrances that it contains. Then sight. What gives sight? Light, fire. Yeah. So then fire was created. Like that. I don't remember the exact sequence. But so the sequence is there that all of the elements in this world have been created because of the Lord's desire to see, hear, taste, touch, smell, etc. To walk, to sit, everything. Thanks for adding that point, Prabhu. All right, so did you have another comment as well, Smita Mataji?
No, I've just heard a phrase that we are puppets in Krishna's hands or something like that. Is it the devotees that are puppets in Krishna's hands then? I don't know, have I completely misunderstood or misheard that
Yeah,
phrase?
that's partly true. It's a bit difficult to explain that, though. I don't know if anyone else can explain that. Shamrani Mataji, have you heard that before?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I might be wrong, but I've heard when Prabhupada was in a Jaladuta and he was going through such a difficult times with his health and the sea and every seasickness he was going through.
Yeah.
And I think that's when he said that, Krishna, if I'm your puppet, make me dance, isn't it? Am I right, Prabhu?
Yeah, you're right. I think we discussed that as well a week or so ago when we were discussing the dance, that we can dance. We can dance to Krishna's dance or we can dance to Maya's dance. Yeah. But in terms of like if we're all puppets in Krishna's hands, I don't know, it's hard to say. Like we have some free will. We have the free will to do what Krishna wants us to do. And we have the free will to not do what Krishna wants us to do as well. In both situations, Krishna can facilitate that. You know, like I gave the example, like if I want to lift my hand or want to put on my glasses or take them off.
Mm.
You know, that may not be connected to Krishna to do those things. You know, but Krishna can facilitate it.
Thank you.
There was a poem, wasn't it? Prabhupada wrote a poem while he was on the Jalduta about that. I think you mentioned.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's called the what was it called again? Markandeya Bhagavat Dharma.
Yeah.
So I can have another read of that. I don't remember it well enough. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prabhu.
Who's going to read for us next? It's Smita Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is present in everyone's heart and that from him come all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. He is the original person to be known by Vedic knowledge. He is the author of the Vedanta philosophy, and he knows the Vedanta philosophy perfectly well. So-called Vedantists and Mayavadis cannot understand Krishna as he is. They simply misled their followers by imitating the actions of Krishna in an unauthorized way. Krishna, the supersoul of everyone, is already within the body of everyone. Therefore, if he sees someone or embraces someone, there is no question of impropriety.
Okay. It appears to me like Srila Prabhupada is quoting a famous verse from Bhagavad Gita here. Krishna is in everyone's heart, from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So this is Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Krishna says, Sarvasya cha ham hridi sanivishto, matasmite jnanam apohanam cha, vedescha sarve ham vedavedyo, vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. Yeah. Very famous verse in Bhagavad Gita which describes what is the role of the super soul in our life. What is the relationship between us, Atma, and Krishna, Paramatma, in the heart. So Krishna does three things, especially for us. He allows us to remember, he gives us knowledge, and he allows us to forget. Yeah. And this has three implications, because we should know Krishna. He says, by all the Vedas I am to be known. And we should remember that he is the compiler of the Vedas, yeah, and that he's the knower of the Vedas, yeah. And forgetfulness is that we don't obviously remember all of these things. We don't even remember who we are, who we were in our previous lives, who we are in relationship to Krishna. What's our relationship to Krishna? We don't remember. Even that forgetfulness is Krishna's power. So how is that linked now to Krishna embracing the gopis? Huh? Because all of these explanations are given by Sukadeva Goswami in relation to Krishna embracing the gopis. I think that's going to be explained in the next paragraph in more detail. And we're getting up to time now. Does anyone have any comments to make on this? Or any questions? We're going to be at a cliffhanger until next week then, because the next week it's going to be explained. The relationship between why Sukadeva Goswami explained that Krishna is a super soul in all these paragraphs. What's that got to do with Krishna being there with the gopis? Yeah, so basically Krishna is fulfilling their desire. He knows their heart, yeah, and he's enabling them to fulfill their desires, just like Krishna is enabling us to fulfill our material desires. Why can Krishna not enable them to fulfill their spiritual desires? You know, is it such a bad thing that they have spiritual desires and they're being fulfilled? You know. On the other hand, we have material desires. Why should Krishna even bother to fulfill our material desires? And then some of us have the audacity to say, well, Krishna shouldn't be fulfilling their spiritual desires. He should be fulfilling my material desires. That's not right, is it? So this is the point that Sukadeva Goswami is making. Okay. So just stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Yeah.